In early January 2023, a team of sharp-eyed researchers from Brigham Young University in Utah dropped a bombshell report that sent chills down the spines of anyone who cares about our planet's fragile wonders. If we didn't act fast, they warned, the Great Salt Lake, the largest saline lake in the Western Hemisphere, sitting right next to bustling Salt Lake City, could vanish entirely within just 5 years, by 2028. For 3 decades prior, this majestic body of water had been in a heartbreaking freefall, shrinking at an alarming rate. Back in 1987, at its glorious peak, it sprawled across about 3,300 square miles, bigger than the state of Delaware. But by early 2023, when that dire warning hit, it had plummeted by over 71% to a mere 950 square miles, exposing a vast, cracked lakebed larger than the island of Maui. The fear was real. The rest could disappear in a blink. Yet, in a twist of fate, record-breaking snowfalls blanketed the region over the next 2 winters, breathing a bit of life back into the lake and boosting its size modestly. Fast forward to October 2025, and the lake's water levels hover around 4,191 feet above sea level, still perilously low, having dropped about 2.5 feet from its spring peak this year, but a far cry from the all-time lows of 2022. Scientists, however, aren't popping champagne. Without bold human action, this icon's long-term decline feels inevitable in our warming world, and a state that's guzzling water like there's no tomorrow. It might not hit zero by 2028 as first feared, but the Great Salt Lake teeters on the edge of oblivion in our lifetimes. And oh, the fallout. It wouldn't just redraw North America's map, it could unleash chaos. Some experts call it a ticking environmental time bomb, poised to be the US's biggest eco-catastrophe of the 21st century. Picture this: vast swaths of Utah, including vibrant Salt Lake City, becoming harder to live in as arsenic-laced toxic dust storms rage from the exposed bed. Real estate values crater, ski slopes turn to slush, tourism fizzles, mining grinds to a halt. One of North America's vital ecosystems crumbles, starving millions of migratory birds. Global food chains wobble, and those poisonous winds? They won't stop at state lines, potentially choking neighbors in Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, and Arizona. This isn't some distant dystopia. It's a crisis brewing right now, one we're not facing with the urgency it demands. So, let's dive into how we got here and what it'll take to pull back from the brink. The Great Salt Lake, we know, is the resilient heir to ancient Lake Bonneville, a colossal inland sea that dominated the landscape during the last ice age, when cooler temps and heavier rains kept evaporation in check. Around 30,000 years ago, Bonneville ballooned to nearly 20,000 square miles, comparable to Lake Michigan, and plunged over 1,000 feet deep in spots, acting more like an ocean than a lake. But here's a pulse-pounding historical twist. About 14,500 years ago, as the Ice Age thawed, the lake burst through Red Rock Pass in a cataclysmic flood, the Bonneville Flood, unleashing a torrent equivalent to 15 times the Amazon River's flow, carving out Idaho's Snake River Canyon and reshaping the Northwest geography forever. As the climate warmed and rains dwindled, Bonneville shrank, splintering into smaller remnants like Sevier Lake, Utah Lake, and the star of the show, the Great Salt Lake, still the 3rd largest lake entirely within the U.S., trailing Lake Michigan and Alaska's Iliamna. These successor lakes form a lifeline, one of the continent's grandest oases amid the parched North American deserts. Trace a line east from the Pacific coast, cross lush Northern California, hurdle the Cascades and Sierras, and you're plunged into the arid Great Basin, Nevada's unforgiving heart, one of the driest spots in North America. It's part of a mosaic of deserts: the Northern Basin, Wyoming Basin, Colorado Plateau, Arizona-New Mexico Plateau, and the scorching Mojave. Yet, smack in the middle, hundreds of miles from California's green, blooms a 100-mile north-south oasis between Bonneville's Airs to the west and the towering Wasatch Mountains to the east, a verdant cradle bursting with life and human ambition. Today, this haven pulses with a chain of thriving cities: Ogden, Clearfield, Salt Lake City, Provo, and Orem, forming the Wasatch Front metropolis, home to over 2.8 million souls, more than 80% of Utah's population. It's an urban island in a sea of empty deserts, and boy, has it boomed. Spectacular scenery, affordable living. Median homes in Salt Lake City are a third cheaper than LA, over 40% less than San Diego. And a surging tech scene dubbed Silicon Slopes have drawn waves of migrants. In the 2020s alone, Utah's population swelled by over 7%, ranking fourth nationally behind Florida, Idaho, and Texas, fueled by net migration, 57% of growth, high birth rates, and remote workers flocking post-COVID. Racial and ethnic minorities drive much of this diversity, with Utah's population jumping 18.4% from 2010 to 2020, concentrated in non-white groups. European roots trace to 1847, when Mormon pioneers, fleeing persecution after Joseph Smith's 1844 mob killing in Illinois, wagon-trekked from the Midwest, some 70,000 over 2 decades, to claim this promised land. They founded Salt Lake City as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Global HQ, infusing it with sacred allure. Today, the church boasts 17.5 million members worldwide, though active ones number 5 to 6 million, all viewing the city as their spiritual heart. But long before the pioneers, indigenous tribes like the Northwestern Shoshone, Ute, Goshute, and Paiute called this land home, revering the lake as Piapa, Big Water, a vital source of food, salt, and spiritual connection, woven into stories of creation and sustenance. Mormon arrival sparked tensions, including conflicts and a tragic era of native child enslavement, underscoring the complex cultural layers etched into this geography. For a century post-founding, the Wasatch Front's population stayed modest, around 500,000 by 1950, with 85–90% Mormon. Then, post-W3 boom ignited explosive growth, doubling to 1 million by 1980, then to 2 million in the 2000s. Now at 2.8 million, 6 times 1950's count. It's a powerhouse, with Utah ranking 4th in new home builds, enriching a legislature where a third have real estate ties, per a New York Times probe. This growth thrives on the region's hydrology. Winter snows cloak the Wasatch Peaks, melting in spring to swell the Bear, Weber, and Jordan rivers, all funneling into the terminal, Endorheic Great Salt Lake. No outlets, just evaporation. Pre-humans, it balanced. Summer evaporation dropped levels by 2 feet. Spring melt refilled. Minerals accumulated, salting it saltier than the sea. Now, 2 villains disrupt. Skyrocketing population demands and climate change's hotter grip, amping evaporation. From the 1900s, dams, canals, and pipes diverted river water for farms, industry, and cities, starving the lake. By the 1960s, overuse kicked in. A wet 1980s briefly revived it to 1987's high, but decline resumed. Between 2020–2023, inflows were a third of historic norms. Crunch the numbers. The lake gets 3.1 million acre-feet yearly from rivers, 600,000 from rain, 2.6 million evaporates. Sustainable human take? 1.1 million. Reality? 2.1 million diverted upstream, plus 200,000 for minerals. A 1.2 million deficit, shrinking it fast. To save it, Wasatch folks must slash use by half, a gut-wrenching feat amid growth dreams. Cities and industry sip just 9%, but 90% of that greens lawns. Salt Lake residents gulp 96 gallons daily, more than Tucson's 78 or LA's 77. Minerals take 9%, leaks 8%. Agriculture, a whopping 74%, with alfalfa alone hogging 34%. A hardy crop suiting Utah's aridity. harvestable multiple times, feeding dairy and beef. But it's water-thirsty, contributing less than 1% to GDP. Utah's GOP-led government shies from regs, protecting rural Republican strongholds. No curbs yet, and suburban sprawl marches on, projecting 600,000 more residents by 2060, demanding more water diversions, recycling, or groundwater, all lake killers. Meanwhile, climate change has warmed northern Utah 4 degrees since 1900, fueling 9% of decline since the 80s. The rest? Ag diversions. That's why it crashed 71% by 2023. Post-warning, 2023's epic snow, highest since 1992-93, lifted it. But 2024-25's dismal winter, second lowest this century, bottom 6 since 1884, erased gains. Luck, not action, saved the day temporarily. Overuse persists, growth accelerates. Without change, vanishing is imminent. If it goes, horror unfolds. The beds laced with arsenic, lead, mercury from mining, ag runoff, coal. Now wind-whipped into dust storms hammering the Wasatch Front, spiking respiratory woes, cancers, heart issues, reproductive harms. Air quality tanks, biz struggles, real estate plummets, especially hitting lower income and communities of color harder, widening racial health gaps. Look southwest. California's Salton Sea, a tenth the size in a rural spot with 650,000 folks, has spiked asthma threefold statewide average, costing $7 billion in property. Scale up. Utah's nightmare multiplies. Dust deposits ruin ag soils, ironic payback for overusers. Winds carry toxins interstate. Worse, dust darkens Wasatch snow, melting it faster. Shrinking lake kills lake-effect snow, slashing PAC 5.1, 8.4%. Ski season shortens, 2022's low lake cut at 2 weeks, threatening Utah's $2 billion winter sports empire, 26,000 jobs, even the 2034 Olympics. Minerals? Gone, axing 5,000 jobs. Brine shrimp? 40% global supply vanishes, zapping $67 million in aquaculture feed. Birds? 10 million migrants on the Pacific Flyway reroute, gutting birdwatching. Far worse than curbing water now. Echoes LA's 20th century greed. Diverting Owens River, dried Owens Lake by 1926. A 100-square-mile eco-tragedy. US's top dust source for decades, spiking health woes. LA spent $2.5 billion on gravel, sprinklers, staff, yet towns withered. Multiply by 15 for Great Salt Lake. Centuries mega disaster. Culturally, Salt Lake City's name becomes a haunting relic of hubris. Indigenous ties sever. Mormon heritage tied to this promised oasis phrase. To avert, /overuse. Painful for ag, sprawl, lawns. But short-term sting beats long-term agony. Utah, find that resolve. Save this treasure. Now there's a lot of data that goes into producing these kinds of videos. Whether it's visually showing you the scale that the Great Salt Lake has shrunk over the years, detailing out how the hydrology around the lake works, and how much humans are over-withdrawing from the system, or showing you how Los Angeles similarly destroyed Owens Lake during the 20th century. The ability to actually visualize raw data, like this on the map, instead of just reading about it in text format, is exactly what makes learning about these kinds of complicated environmental issues so fascinating to me. And it's why the Exploring Data Visually course is one of my favorite courses that I've ever taken with this video sponsor, Brilliant. They start out by teaching some real bare-bones fundamentals through interactive exercises and straightforward explanations. Then, as you progress, they bring these small concepts together into the bigger process. And soon enough, you have a decent grasp of what originally seemed like a daunting subject. And the same goes for all the other subjects they cover too, from calculus to AI to computer science, advanced physics, geometry, and much more. I think that Brilliant is perfect for the kind of person who genuinely loves understanding new things, as they get you to the level where you can apply the concepts you learn into your everyday life. And they also make learning super practical. Their courses break down into short segments of about 15 minutes. so you can easily use their app to make steady progress in learning while you're commuting or have some free time. So, if you're the type of person who loves learning new things, you can try out everything Brilliant has to offer for free by clicking the button here on your screen right now, or by visiting brilliant.org, Real Life Lore, or by clicking the link that's down below in the description. And best of all, you'll also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything that's on Brilliant. It's an incredible way to help support my channel and learn some cool new things at the same time. And as always, thank you so much for watching.